Hiya friends, Prepared Suburbanite back at you. Today's video, just a couple of updates on some of the information that I've shared with you. A couple of videos ago I did an update on the foster dog that we were fostering for a local rescue group. Well, I think I told you the story that the dog got loose, started tearing around the neighborhood. The more she tore around the neighborhood, the more excited she got. The more excited she got, the more she tore around, and it just kept circling and circling. Anyway, the neighbor kid finally was able to capture the dog. Her name was Ivy, and he got bit. And he got bit, a puncture right just below his eye. And oh boy, bleeding like crazy. I tried to reach in to grab the dog's collar while he had a hold of the dog, and she bit me in the thumb. And my wife tried to get in there, and the dog tried to bite her but missed. So 2 for 3, I guess, from the dog's perspective. Anyway, the dog had to go through a 10-day rabies hold period just to make sure that no symptoms of rabies came up. She was fully vaccinated and all that, so it really wasn't a big concern, but the policy, and I think even state law, requires that that be done after a confirmed bite. And she went through the 10 days, no evidence of any rabies. But where she was, being held at a veterinarian's office or a shelter somewhere, she got very aggressive with the staff there, and with the input from the local rescue crew, they put Ivy down last Friday. Kind of a sad day. She had her good moments. She was, once she earned your trust and you earned hers, she was a pretty cool little dog, and we enjoyed having her around. But once a bad dog, always a bad dog, I guess. And so we're kind of heartbroken about that. And so I just wanted to update you with that, and I've got a couple other things that are worthy of talking about, so stick around. I mentioned in a previous video that I was, and maybe I'm just way too sensitive about this LGBTQ nonsense that's been going on pretty much all this Pride Month and probably even before that. But I mentioned that my favorite brewery that I think makes some of the best beer around, Yuengling out of Pennsylvania, that they were sponsoring a drag queen story hour, or a parade, or something with drag queens. And I was critical of that because I don't think that an all-American beer company should be sponsoring that kind of stuff, particularly for our kids. But I found out afterwards that Yuengling insisted, the management at Yuengling insisted that the attendees at this drag queen story thing had to be over 18 years of age. And the organizers of the event relented and said, okay, we'll only let people that are 18 and over into the venue. And so I think Yuengling, in a sense, struck a chord, or at least won a small battle. So I'm not going to give up hope on them yet. Just recently came out that they're doing a special limited edition beer can, all patriotic, red, white, and blue, American flag, life, liberty, and all that kind of stuff. So maybe they're trying, but we'll have to see. So that's that on Yuengling beer. The other thing that I mentioned was my handgun permit. Here in North Carolina, we have to have a local sheriff certify that we're good people and that we can, that we've taken a course, that we have some proficiency with a handgun in order to qualify for a handgun permit. And every 5 years, after you do that the first time, which they fingerprint you and do the background check and all that, verify your addresses and you name it. And so they issued my first concealed handgun permit 10 years ago or thereabouts, and I renewed it 5 years ago, and that seemed just what I can remember. Just made a trip to the sheriff's office, filled out a form or two, paid the fee, which I think is $75 each, so it's $150 for my wife and I to have our CHPs here in North Carolina. And we were there, I think, on the 15th of May or the 16th of May. Anyway, it's been 41 days since I was there. You can count backwards. Today's the 27th of June, so it's 41 days in the past from today. So I decided, what I mentioned in the video was that I don't know if they have a requirement to tell me that I failed the background check or I failed something in the renewal application. And I think I mentioned that in fact, I'm pretty sure I mentioned that the gal behind the counter, when we were doing paperwork back and forth, she said, hey, you know, when your permit expires, that's it. Your permit expires, and until you get your new one, that's pretty much it. And I was a little angry about that. So anyway, a couple of days ago, I decided to go look it up and find out what the requirements really are. And yes, the sheriff does have an affirmative within the legislature, within the law, requirement to notify the renewal applicant if he fails. Now, you get the new permit if you pass, but they are required to inform that you were denied the permit. And I don't know, it doesn't say here whether they have to give you the reasons or not, but you can appeal. There's an appeal process lined out in the legislation. And I also found out that if everything else worked just fine, you paid the renewal fees, you filled out the paperwork within the right time frame, and I think you've got 60 days before the day of your expiration, that your old concealed carry permit remains in effect until you get the decision on your renewal. So I think I can carry, but I won't be able to produce a current permit if I was asked for it, and I'd have to go through this long, lengthy explanation about what the law requires and what the law says and what the timing was and all that. So anyway, just for clarification, our local sheriff does have to, in fact, any local sheriff in North Carolina has a legal responsibility to inform of the outcome of a renewal of a CHP, and if you've gone through all the paperwork, you've paid your fees, and your expiration date of your old permit goes by, you're okay to carry. So I just thought I'd bring that to everybody's attention, a couple of clarifications. And if you please, stick around to the end of the video, so I've got some really cool shots that I picked up on our game cameras over the weekend, and something that just happened right behind me while I was filming this. So stick around, it'll be fun. What's going on at Fox News? Oh my goodness. For the last couple of months or so, as you may be aware, Fox News has gone through some very weird stuff. They terminated Tucker Carlson. They just recently fired all the rest of his staff. They have taken some of their weekend hosts and they're not there anymore. They've shuffled their lineup. They've lost a huge amount of market share to their competition. But they're just not the same old Fox News that I remember. So with that said, and Dan Bongino used to be on Fox. He had a weekend show that was pretty good, and for a couple of years before that, I had been catching Dan Bongino on originally on YouTube, and then he's moved to Rumble and basically said to heck with YouTube, and I kind of understand how he feels about that. But so I frequently watch Dan's podcast. Comes on at 11 o'clock Eastern Time on Rumble. So if you're interested, wander over to Rumble and take a look. I think he's got a very sharp wit. He's got a very sharp analytical mind, and he tells it like it is, and I appreciate that. Being a kid that grew up in New York, I can certainly understand where Dan's coming from most of the time when he's ranting and raving about current events and nonsense that's going on in politics and on the world stage and all that. So, but Dan's got a rule, and he calls it the Bongino Rule, and he won't, and he urges us not to react to a news story until 24 to 72 hours has gone by since it first hit the news waves. And he's cited a number of examples where he has held back on reporting, not wanting to be the first, but wanting to be the right, doing it the right way, given the right facts, given the right background, given the right backstory. And he cited a couple of examples about why it was such a great idea to hold off on making any judgments, at least for 24 to 72 hours after a crazy story breaks. The whole thing with Russia and the Wagner group, and they were going to march on Moscow and all that. Well, that just, I mean, the place, the internet went crazy over that. Oh, it's all going to be World War III. Oh, Moscow's going to, and Putin's going to fall, and blah, blah, blah. And the guy got halfway there and took off. So you got to be careful, I think, in Dan's perspective and his commitment to journalistic excellence. We owe it to ourselves to be very, very cautious and very, very careful about what we react to, how we react to, when we react to it, when it comes to matters of prepping importance, matters of national security, foreign influences in our government and things like that. Wait until the facts really start coming out. And it may require a lot longer than 72 hours before the facts really do come out. But as a prepper, I urge you, if you are involved in prepping, not to react immediately to any of the new stuff that's popping up all over the place. And all you got to do is just go to the internet, go to Facebook, go to YouTube, and find out what the latest crazy theory is about what's going on in the news. So be very, very careful. Don't make any big decisions based on those primary reactions. Do your homework, do your research, and wait. This is the Prepared Suburbanite reminding you to be prepared always, and I'll see you all on the next video.